It's been a mixed bag for Brendan Rodgers and Celtic in pre-season. They've had the highs of Newcastle, the lows of Ajax, the somewhere in betweens of the Estrella, etc., etc., etc. Even though they lost to Estrella, which is a beer, but you know it wasn't a scudding. And you know the other victories that Celtic have picked up, but there's one common theme, folks, when it comes to Celtic's pre-season, and it's transfers. The demand for more. Are they going to get it? Is someone going to pry open the war chest? Well, we're going to find out today because Brendan Rodgers is demanding some ambition, some transfer ambition from the board. Now, I've seen a lot of comments regarding Celtic's transfers in our videos, and like I pointed out, and Jambo Bears pointed out, and a lot of people pointed out, you can't just simply wait until the Champions League begins, folks. Like well, I mean, in footballing terms, the end of August right now, might feel like years away, you know. But it will be around the corner soon. But a lot of business can get done in a month, and if Celtic go to the Champions League in that qualifier, right, and lose the first Old Firm of the season, which is at Ibrox, can you imagine how much the heat's going to be turned up? It'll be interesting, to say the least. But this is what Brendan Rodgers had to say following the 5-1 Ajax defeat. And I quote, "Yes, it depends what your ambition is. If your ambition is to really progress and push well, then we need to improve the squad. But I can't fault the players. The players that are here, they've been working so well, so hard. And you see some of the play and how the work has been very, very good. However, if you want to progress, then as I said, you need to bring in quality. And that's something we hopefully can do." End of quote. So Rodgers hinting at the fact that the current squad, it may be good, but they need a bit of depth and need to add a wee bit more quality. And I mean, apart from Nicholas Kuhn, I wouldn't say Celtic's really lost a lot of quality in that regard. But the reality is, Kyogo left in January, still haven't replaced him. Uh, and then Jota's obviously picked up an injury, it's rolled them out until the new year. So they're very weak up front. Defensively, they brought in Tierney, which is an improvement on Greg Taylor. Don't really care what you say, he just is. I mean, the fitness thing is always going to be a debate, but here, maybe he'll miraculously play every single game in the Scottish Premiership. Highly doubt it, but here, it could happen. It could happen for Kieran Tierney. And they've no lost any other centre backs that were good and that they were actually going to be a part. Yeah, the Narokkis and the Lagerbielkas, etc. But they've moved on. They've never. I don't understand what the gimmick was with them. Don't never really got given a proper chance. Because I see a lot of comments saying that why don't they play over Scales and Trusty sometimes? They never did. Rodgers didn't really fancy him. But Rodgers has moved on. He said that he will not be hitting the panic button, and this is what he had to say. And I quote: "I think the scoreline didn't quite reflect the game. I think the first 60 minutes we played a lot of really, really good football with physicality. We broke through their pressure, scored one, could have had more. I thought it was just the last 30 minutes. We pushed the players really hard in the pre-season, so we looked a bit leggy. But that aside, we should keep the ball better and can be better in duels. So there's no doubts we lost it in that one. Then the final goals are probably a consequence of that. There were nearly enough good moments in the game, but certainly in the last 30, we'd want to be better. I think that's the nature of pre season. It's designed to grow, and by the end of it, you've had really good tests." End of quote. So, interestingly enough, Celtic were the better team in the first half against Ajax. You know, the stats suggest that, and the scoreline was pretty close at one each, but that is the difference, man. When you're at a high level, see if a team's legs just go in the last half an hour, and I think you do associate like absolute scalpings more in pre-season. It's noticeable. It's very, very noticeable in pre-season. When a team's leg goes, they just go. And I mean, Celtic, would they get beat here by Ajax anyway in the second half? It would have looked likely, but I mean, I'm not going to sit here and turn around and say, "Oh well, here it's all due to the legs," and also, the team they fielded was really poor. I mean, Carter Vickers come on in the second half. Cal McGregor didn't get subbed off till late. Same with Nygren. You had the likes of Engels coming on. It wasn't a weak Celtic team that was out in that second half, folks. So, Yeah, be interesting to see what happens next. But what I think is going to happen is the Celtic board are going to wait until the season begins, see if the fans are content with the start of the season, and if not, then I think they'll spend some money. But if Celtic begin with a couple of wins and they're flying high going into that Champions League playoff round, then maybe they won't do anything. But then, you have a week between the games, it may be at the end of August, but, if you draw the first leg, one each, you can't just be waiting to pull the trigger on transfers. But that is the problem, folks, with no get the no guarantee of Champions League football. You'll have a completely different transfer list of transfers that you want to make if you compare it between Europa League and Champions League money. It's like I had to go at Rangers a couple of years ago when they qualified for the Champions League and didn't spend the money and back Gio. But if Rangers were guaranteed Champions League football going into that summer, it's just natural that you're going to spend. It would be a completely different window. I understand the dilemma, but the problem is with Celtic, we keep hearing about a war chest this, a war chest that. They've got the money to spend. They're just simply refusing to do it. Because if Celtic went out and spent 20, 25 million and then didn't get Champions League football, that's how you quickly lose your war chest. And your war chest simply just becomes an empty chest of drawers.